Okay, so now it is about that time that we should talk about that moment on the runway. I'll first say that I do not need people to blow smoke up my ass. I do not need everyone to like me, nor do I need everyone to like my work, whether it's on Project Runway or otherwise. Um, we all have an audience. So, uh, what I'll say is this: even with all of that, one thing that I do not believe in is being rude. I hate rudeness. I hate crassness. I do not like bullyish type behavior. And, I don't want to get down into the weeds of it, into the muck and the mire, and I don't want to go tit for tat. What I want to do is talk about context and the bigger picture of this. So, the first thing I want to say is that for me as a designer, um, a lot of what I do is about emotionally hooking into the moment. And you have to learn how to pivot and react and respond. And it's taken me a long time to be able to do that because a lot of times I have been, I would play things safe. So for me to throw caution to the wind, in that moment of, realizing that the model who was supposed to come, well, Miss Thing didn't come. So I have to figure out what to do. And in that moment, I realized that there was a fit issue and there was an aesthetic issue. So it's my job as a designer to find a solution to that. So I came up with a solution. Whether they liked it or not, I don't really care. But it leads us to another place. So we're going to talk about that. I wanted to send Chloe down that runway feeling beautiful. I love Chloe. I love her spirit. I love her like modern boho free spirit. Like there's a part of the APOTS girl that is Chloe. So I wasn't pulling something out of my ass. I was actually responding to something that I identify with in Chloe, and I wanted to honor her. And I was very proud of doing that, even in the face of what I consider ugly, non-contextual, projected bile. That's what it was. I have been an educator, a professor, a teacher, a mentor, a big brother. You name it, I've done it. I've been a boss. I've had countless associates and assistants and interns. And one thing that I pride myself on, well, a couple things I pride myself on. A, being linguistically acute enough to speak to people properly. I am very interested in full context so that I can make educated decisions and interpretations of what's going on. And I am proud that I am an emotionally mature person. So all of that to me is important in the art of critique. So I know what good critique is. I do it all the time. I'm a critic at most of the fashion schools, thesis reviewer at most of the fashion schools. I interface with students all the time. So I know what critique is. What I got was not healthy. And then that leads me to a sidebar just about reality TV in general. I understand that drama is a draw. We get titillated by drama and antics and all of that. And we all love a little bit of fun, shade, and all of that. We love to see people stand up for themselves. And we love to see people find themselves. I think we can sort of like live vicariously through people when we see that. But this idea of like creating negativity, creating negative energy, that's just outside of me. It just doesn't. Uh, that just doesn't work for me, and I don't like it. And I don't like doing it to people, and I don't like it done to me. Um, Drama works, right? But so does human connection. So does sharing the creative process, becoming emotionally invested in people's growth and seeing them move forward, their advancement. Like that is exciting and thrilling and fun to me. I think that ultimately people want to be inspired. That's why people watch this stuff. You know, if you want to watch fighting, watch wrestling. If you want to watch the creative process about fashion and how fashion is representative of people, it's representative of our politics, our belief systems. Like there's a whole show, you know, that could be done just based in the reality of what fashion actually is. Um, I personally think that the new mold, and I think this is true for TV, I think this is true for fashion in general. I think that inspiration as escapism has to be the new mold. Like, inspire us. Let's dream. It's dreams and new ideas that actually create change, you know? So that's what I am vested in. Um, yeah, that's what I'm vested in. So I also want to just give you a little context outside of that runway moment, because the truth of the matter is, about a week prior to that runway elimination, I had actually gone to the producers and told them that I was leaving. I had realized that that experience was basically taking me back to a sort of a negative place that I've experienced in fashion, that was sort of unhealthy. I felt like I was putting myself back into a box, um, that I've worked so hard to get out of, a box of like anxiety and um, worry and questioning myself. And I've worked so hard to get past that. And that's one of the reasons that I actually created APOTS, is because I needed to create the healthy space for me that I've always needed. It's a space that 25-year-old Aaron needed, you know? Yeah, I learned a lot and I did a lot, but I also went through a lot. So I figured if I need that space, I think other people need that space too. That was a huge, huge part of me creating APOTS. So when I got to that runway, I don't know if you guys realize, when I was on that runway, I was not sad. I was not sad during the critique. I was not sad when they eliminated me. Um, in fact, I think what happened is when they eliminated me, it was actually validation of what I had been feeling. And I felt a huge sense of relief. Um, I knew when I got on that runway that day that one way or another, Aaron was leaving Project Runway that day. Either they were going to eliminate me, or had they kept me, I would have declined and I would have left, because I knew that that wasn't for me anymore. To the degree that when I got back to the lounge, I was, you walk into the lounge and the whole gang is there and people are upset and crying. And, I see all their beautiful faces. But the first thing that came out of my mouth was, the torture is over. That's how I felt. I felt such a sense of relief. I felt like a ton of bricks had been lifted off of my shoulders. Um, one of the big things that I also, and I'm not saying this to sound arrogant or anything, which is interesting because there's always these accusations of arrogance. But that sidebar. I also realized those judges are my peers. That's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is we're all in the same age group. We've all been in the industry very similar amount of time. And yes, some of them are very famous, but I've done the work. I've been in the rooms. I know what it is. I live it. I've lived it and I live it. So, that realization also gave me a huge amount of confidence in being able to say Auf Wiedersehen to everyone, and I also, one thing that wasn't shown is that when I was eliminated, I actually, after Heidi says Auf Wiedersehen and she gives you the kisses, I said, can I please speak? And I actually spoke and I expressed to them that this was a great experience, that I was proud of myself for challenging myself, doing something new, doing something different, that I was grateful to be able to represent experienced designers, Seventh Avenue designers, and that I was grateful to have met so many amazing people, so many great designers, really wonderful people, and so many cool people in production. And all of that was a blessing. And and the fashion daddies who I adore. I wanted to express that to everyone. I wanted everyone to know that me leaving wasn't a sad thing. It was good for me, and I wanted them to know how I felt about them before I left. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put a period the way that I put the period. I didn't want to walk off that runway. You guys didn't see it, but I'm proud of how I left. So on to the last part of this. That person also extended an invitation to a meal, or lunch or dinner or something. And what I would say is this: yes, let's do it. Let's absolutely do it. You're going to pay, and it needs to be a restaurant that has really good gluten-free options. But this is the caveat. I don't want to talk fashion. Ultimately, to be totally honest, I don't care about fashion that much. To me, fashion is a conduit for deeper conversations, deeper connections. It is just a vehicle to get us someplace else. So let's talk about those deeper subtextual things. Who are we as people? Like, what are we doing? Where are we from? How are we, both of us are Black queer men from chocolate cities. Similar, I'm a little older, but similar in age. We're oftentimes in completely white spaces. We're oftentimes, especially coming from chocolate cities, sometimes we're raised in homophobic environments. Like, how does all of that stuff affect us? How do we squeeze ourselves into these boxes? How do we contort ourselves? And what does that do to our emotions and our psyches and the way we think and the way we treat people and the way that we respond to the world, what we put value in? Those are the things that I like to talk about. Those are the things that I think fashion actually points to. Fashion is just a physical manifestation of all of those realities of who we are and what we believe and why we believe them. Those are the things that interest me. Those are the things that excite me, is getting to the deeper levels of who we are. Once all the fierceness and fabulousness and drag and labels and all of that stuff is gone, what are we left with? That's what I like to talk about. So if you want to talk about that, let's do it. All right. Okay. On to something else.